Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bonnie, for this beautiful session, for allowing us to be a witness of it. Would you like to take a quick break and have a drink of water, or before I ask you just a few questions on how this conversation was for you?
I have some water here, so I'll just put the video and have a quick.
Yes, please do. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm back.
Great. Thank you so much. It has been such a delight and honor to witness this conversation, Bonnie. And I am curious to know, what about this conversation stood out for you as you now step out and reflect on it?
Well, I think it was interesting just to, share some of these elements, which I feel like, I'm quite familiar with, because, they will say that you're in your own story. And so in a way, by, going through this, I think speaking with my friend Ben, it was almost, in a way, even though I was speaking about the story and I was in it, it was almost like I was outside the story a bit. I felt like that's what the conversation, what was happening between Ben and I, and he was kind of expanding my thinking to be able to look back on where I was at, and especially around that evidence and how I'm collecting evidence. And so, yeah, there's going to be so many takeaways. I'm going to have to journal and, to understand more.
Yeah. So what I'm getting is that through this conversation, you were stepping out and being able to reflect in a different way. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious, is there any point in this conversation that comes up for you where, that just stood out or struck you, where you thought, wow, that allowed you to step out?
Yeah. I think the other thing was, and I need to go back and listen to it, but where we spoke about opening the door, and then I think we turned the camera off, and just, I couldn't really see anything outside the door. It was like this big sandstorm happening. And so that was interesting. Yeah.
So thank you so much. And there was so much imagery in this in this conversation. So what made it easy for you to be able to, step out or be able to look in a different way in this conversation?
I think there was one moment, I don't know whether it was about halfway through or when, I don't know what was going on, but I did feel this shift, and I don't know if everybody else felt it watching it, and I felt like my brain just went into a scramble, because whatever was introduced was something so new. I was like scrambling to figure out what just happened, because it kind of disrupted whatever thought was happening or how I was thinking about it. It was quite odd, just like, because I'm very sensitive, and I was like, what just happened then? And finding the language to understand what that shift, but I felt that, which was, incredible release, I guess. That's what it's about. Right?
Yeah. So what is it that you would share with us, if you were to explain or describe this experience around, what could you share with us about this partnership, having this kind of conversation, this partnership?
Mm-mm. So as a client, as Ben, spoke with me and we dialogued, is that kind of what your question is? Like, what was that feeling like for me? It felt like something was opening do you mean it was definitely like opening, and then it was opening, and it just kept, it was pushing the walls out, basically. That's what it felt like. Do you mean? So I felt like it's very sneaky. It just kept on going out and out. And then I was like, maybe, you know, that shift, whatever happened with that, however the question was posed, and I can't even remember what it was. I'm going to have to go back and watch it. Women will get this, but it felt like transition when you give birth and things get very uncomfortable just before you have the breakthrough. So that's actually what it felt like. Yeah. Interesting.
Thank you so much, Bonnie, for sharing with us. Really, you know, also beyond the coaching session, how this experience was for you. I really want to thank on behalf of everyone for your openness and for allowing us to witness the power of deep reflection and, you know, partnering together with someone to be able to see from a different angle. Is there anything that you would like to say, you know, to complete, you know, as a student and also now having experienced this session?
Well, I just want to thank, you know, Ben for the opportunity. So hello, Ben, for bringing me through that coaching experience. It's really, enlightening. And it wasn't even so much what you were saying, but I think I'll be reflecting on, like I said, I'm quite sensitive as to those shifts that I felt. And I think I'm going to, you know, come to a greater understanding of actually what occurred, because I'm still a bit, you know, unsure to articulate, but I know I felt something shift. So thank you.
Thank you too. Great. So
Okay.
thank you. And as a dad, we have quite a good contribution on the Mentimeters. Will you be able to help you know, to read through for us so that we all can enjoy the learning? Okay, here we go.
Great. So what stood out for you today? The coach asked the client to give metaphors, visualization of self, Bonnie at the door, managing expectations, the journey that Ben took Bonnie on, how coach handled the client's story when she was speaking in third person, the usage of metaphors, how the coach was having the client define her beliefs, concepts to get a better view of her perception, Bonnie visualizing herself at the door. It was amazing the way the coach used metaphors to uncover the thinking process of the client and how she's perceiving her current situation without getting into personal details. Asking for another metaphor and then asking what the common theme was. Dr. Ben's handling of the emotional moment was mindful, and he allowed Bonnie to take a moment by reminding her that it was a safe space. When the metaphor wasn't working, the coach offered the opportunity for the client to bring her own. How it challenged the client, Bonnie. The coach's effort to expand the mind by asking more metaphors to understand the client. The way the coach both acknowledged and challenged the client and her way of thinking. I've picked up on the usage of metaphors and on the exploration of more metaphors to uncover understanding. The client moved into a more reflective mode when the camera was turned off. Use of metaphors, the door, the book, the death or rebirth waiting for new identity. The client was very concerned about being right or good enough. Whenever she gave an answer, she was looking for validation on the right track. These two things are not the culprit. This helped the client stop and consider other possibility. There was a lot of questions to let the client to step out, to notice the current situation and herself. Being kind. Coach asking her the manner in which she is trying to collect evidence, it helping the client to uncover the learning about her. I loved the way that Dr. Ben concluded the session. The shift was a eureka moment, and it just took another tangent that allowed the coachee into a space of possibilities. The invitation to the client to offer her own metaphors that not only captured the client's current situation, but also what she wanted to create. A very subtle way of assisting the client to uncover the gap in her way of seeing her world. It's important to respect the pause and let the client dive into his own thought. It will help to discover himself. The safe, warm, comforting space the coach created for the client, especially when he asked to turn the camera off. Dr. Ben's flipping of the lost frame of hindrance and frustration to a gain frame of clarity of how she collects her evidence. Metaphor as a tool for understanding. The coach asking questions to facilitate and deepen learning for the client. The power of reflection thus level up the client's way of thinking. The power of metaphors as in how the metaphors can really communicate what is going on in the client's mind and give meaning to the thought. The way Ben was able to quickly understand what was the client was going through and was able to maneuver her through the conversation. Would be beneficial to hear Ben talk us through the points that took him through the coaching questions. How Ben kept the inquiry to help the client get the insight of being herself responsible to the door key to reevaluate evidence. How the coach used the metaphors to create awareness and new learning. The moment they stopped the camera, pause, hold the space for her, helped her to step back and look at herself as a third person. The coach capturing the now moment to an inquiring on what is hitting her. The coach's ability to evoke awareness, especially the distinction between searching for evidence and the manner in which the client was searching for evidence. Sorry, I have to run after this. I'm still at work, but what stood out for me was how the coach used the metaphor initiated by the client to build further on it, expanding the client's mind. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.